We're okay? All right, I'd like to call this work session to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Keel.
Here.
Councilmember Kerr.
Here.
Councilmember Parment.
Here.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Here.
Councilmember Thista. Mayor Riley.
Here.
There are 6 members present.
Great, thank you. And our first item of business is a update from the fire chief for Summit County Fire and EMS, and Chief Davis.
Thank you. Can you all hear me okay? Is this on?
You have to push the button.
A big green light.
Green light.
Okay, should be good now. Well, good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity to come out and visit with you all. It's interesting to see this. And on my time in Summit County, I never thought this would happen. So congratulations to you all. I think it's a good thing for sure. Summit Fire and EMS, first and foremost, I started in Fire and EMS in 1993 in northern Arizona. I came to Colorado and worked for the first iteration of Lake Dillon Fire and Rescue in 1995. I've been with every iteration of Summit Fire and EMS since then. We are a combination of 6 former fire departments and the former Summit County Ambulance Service. We are an accredited agency, and today we have over 100 members, almost 80 of which are line level responders. We staff currently 4 24-hour stations, one at Copper, one at Frisco, one at Dillon, and this one right here in your backyard. The organization is recognized as a special district in the state of Colorado. We're funded primarily through property taxes. We're running about 4,500, 5,000 calls a year. When we consolidated with Summit County Ambulance, we became an ALS transport agency at that point in time. So we still do a little bit out of county transports whenever the need arises. I think the biggest things that I wanted to touch on today for this group is just certainly answer whatever questions you may have in the fire department. But we've got a lot of, as a growing organization, a number of initiatives that we're undertaking now. And I think it's, and I'll speak to these things, understanding that this is a rural fire department, and so we need to take care of all of the stations that Summit Fire Agency has, are at any point in time, depending on the need, will respond anywhere in our jurisdiction. So the Keystone station, I've had those crews at Copper before. I've also had every crew that we've had in our fire department out here in Keystone running 2 calls at one time. So it just removed the resources wherever the calls are needed. Currently, we're building a fire station in Silverthorne. You've probably all been aware or seen some of that. The intent will be to put a medic unit on first thing, and then over time, we'll staff that station fully. We're looking at 18 people when it's fully staffed, assigned to the station. We currently run 2 engines and 2 trucks, along with 4 medic units, soon to be 5. We are partnered with the U.S. Forest Service to provide wildland suppression in their forest. After our last consolidation in 2020 with Summit County Ambulance, 2021, we had to go for a mill levy increase, which we were given. Thank you to the voters for that, for sure. It helped prop up our EMS operation, and it also allowed us the opportunity to get more involved with wildland fire in Summit County. The problem that we're seeing with wildfire is clearly that, you know, in days past, for those of us that have lived here for 25, 30 years, or however long it's been, you used to be able to do something about wildfire when it started. Nowadays, under the right conditions, the only thing we are going to be able to do is get everybody out of the way and get out of the way ourselves, because these things are burning. They're fast, they're violent, they're explosive. So in response to that, the fire department has started to stand up a wildland division. We currently have 4 full-time employees who make up the first phase of our wildland division. And these folks their primary focus is risk mitigation, operations, risk management, operations, and mitigation. Operations is, as it sounds, being a contractor with the Forest Service. We send our rigs all across the country at any point in time without short staffing ourselves, of course, to fight wildland fires and Forest Service. Risk management is more the code side of things and helping homeowners identify what their needs are as it relates to wildfire management and acquiring grant funding towards mitigation efforts. And then the mitigation piece is the big piece that's coming online next year, and that really is the fire department's going to have crews of people that are going to be able to do immediate mitigation for homeowners. If we come out and do a wildfire inspection and you got 3 trees, instead of going through the process of getting a grant, hiring a local contractor, if it's something that is absolute necessary and immediately type, let's just say, we've all seen these houses around Southern County that have got multiple trees around a really nice back deck. Somebody wants to get rid of those. Now they have to hire a contractor and pay for it out of their own pocket. We'll have 2 options with the Wildland Division. We'll either help them get grant money, and that grant money, they can use that money to hire a local arborist. Or if it's an immediate need situation, the fire department will just drop 5 trees and do it. So that's kind of what's going on there. 2 things that are coming, well, one, the biggest thing for the town to be aware of in the immediate future is we're getting ready to adopt a new version of the fire code. And so whenever that process takes place, our prevention division, we meet with all of our various jurisdictions, and obviously we have Keystone, Dillon, Silverthorne, Bristol, and the county under our purview as the fire department. And so that process, we usually start that. We started it about 6 weeks ago, and we do it in such a way because there has to be hearings with the various jurisdictions and go through the process and any changes in the code. And then it's in a formal adoption to have that done by the end of the year, so we as a fire department can then move to adopt that code ourselves as the governing document going forward. So there will be, there will be more information coming out on that soon. Additionally, over the years and 6 consolidations and 1 with an ambulance service, we've kind of outgrown our fleet's facility at Keystone Station here. When Dave Parley designed that building, I don't know, does anybody know? There's got to be a couple people here that know Dave. Of course you do, right? When he designed that building originally, they had it designed as such to where it was 2 bays larger to the west than where it is now. Because of funding it cut off short. Ultimately, what they did was they left us an opportunity to do what we need to do now, which is add those 2 bays on so we can house our fleet maintenance facility. We've looked around the county to try and find property that's zoned for automotive maintenance, and the only thing that's available out there right now is behind 7-Eleven and Breck. And since all of our business is on this side of the county and Breck is a different department, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to go over there. So that's something that you'll probably start seeing maybe towards the end of the year, certainly first of next year for plan reviews and things like that. There's probably a myriad of other information that I probably should talk about, but off the top of my head at the end of the day, I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll take, if it pleases the council, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Councilmember Davis.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. With the issues with insurance for HOAs, we have used your fire mitigation specialist, or risk management, I won't get the term right. Very, very helpful, very positive, explained to us what we needed to do. We're in the process of doing it, but it's very, very much appreciated.
I'd love to hear that. You know, there's a fair amount of money that goes into standing up another division, as you all well know or finding out, within a government agency. But, you know, it's the days of, they call 911, we don't run out the door and we actually can do something. Those days are over with, and we've got to take care of the issue on the front side to have a fighting chance to be able to evacuate neighborhoods and get people out of the way and get out of the way ourselves. Because I'd like to be able to tell you that we're going to be able to save it all the time, but we all saw what these troublesome did, 100,000 acres in an afternoon. That's our reality. and I've got 4 stations to work with. Our priority is going to be getting them all out of the way, and then we're all going to watch it from a distance and hope the best for anybody that's still trying to get out. Right? Not to be gloom and doom, but let's be honest. Right?
Any other questions? Well, well, go ahead, Councilmember Permit.
First, comment and question or two. First comment is, I feel lucky to live in some fire EMS district because of the excellent service that you all provide. And that's exciting for Silverthorne to hear that they're going to be a medic unit and then eventually a full station. And I'm glad that we have the station here. Would any of this expansion affect year-round staffing of either the medic or engine in Keystone?
We have, starting July 1st, we just went through a round of hiring 3 paramedics and 3 EMTs, firefighter EMTs, for that station, with the intent being that we don't take anything away from these communities we're already serving. Now, is it safe to say that there's a surge season or there's a slow season in Keystone? Not as slow as it used to be, but yes. We say the same thing about Copper this time of year because nothing's really kicked off. Like I indicated, being a rural fire protection district, we move the resources wherever they're needed at the time. But there's nowhere in our business plan is the intention to take these resources that are here and pluck them out of this station and park them somewhere else and be responding into Keystone. As an accredited agency, those folks at the Center of Public Safety Excellence, along with ISO, they know where our apparatus is parked, and when they come and do a spot check, it better be there. So I give you my word as the fire chief. While they may be over in Copper Mountain or Frisco at any point in time on any given day, depending on the call volume, this is their home and they're stepping here.
Thank you, Chief Davis. Follow-up question, if I may, Mr. Mayor. Very, very glad to hear about that and the additional staff. Just so folks who are familiar with it are aware, what is the seasonal staffing plan? I mean, apart from call volume across the day, drawing resources where they're needed, what's the standard staffing plan for seasonal variability for both the engine and medic at our station?
So the 4 stations that we have staffed, we have 18 people assigned to each station. On any given day, we have 2 people on a medic unit and a minimum of 3, if not 4, on the truck or the unit. So fully staffed, our stations are running 6. Minimum staffing is 5 per station, 2 on the medic and 3 on the engine. And those folks that are on the engine, they can go over to a water tender or a wildland or whatever the call dictates. As I was driving over here, we got a call from Lake County for a wildland fire at Twin Lakes. Again, because we are one of the larger departments this close to Denver, we do a lot of support in the surrounding counties because we have the full-time resources in there. They're still running a lot of volunteer combination type program. So to your question, Aaron, it really is our standard model is minimum of 20 people per day with a battalion chief and an EMS coordinator on duty, so 22 people every day at a minimum, if not 26. If everybody's here, nobody's on vacation, we're at 26 people a day, and that's year round. Next year, when we bring on those seasonals to do the wildfire mitigation work, I think we're starting with 6. So we'll have 10 total in the division at the time. This station responds to the top of Loveland Pass, all the way to Montezuma, out to Summerwood, and then clearly into the Cove. We still have the Sun Cove station, but we're looking at retrofitting that one as well, along with the Keystone station to accommodate the needs of the wildland division, because that's kind of their house.
Thank you, Chief.
Anything else? Oh,
Carol had a question.
okay. Councilmember Kerr.
Thank you. Thanks, Fire Chief. I appreciate your insights here. I wonder if you could tell us what you worry about or what your assessment is with respect to evacuating Keystone neighbors in case of Keystone neighborhoods in case of fire? Can you guys hear me?
Is this a recorded line? Can I be candid and speak off record?
Nothing's off record.
Well, of course not. It's a double-edged sword. Let's be candidly here. Our communities rely on the tourism industry. The people that come to our communities do not know egress and access routes the way that the full-time people do. They haven't talked to our oil and division. They don't know the back way to get out of, I don't know, Summit Cove maybe via the ranch over there. That's going to slow down people. And when it comes to the reality of what we can save and what we can't, we've already accepted that reality. Our primary focus is going to be life safety. And we see it time and again whenever we have a holiday weekend and traffic is too blocked for 4 hours. Downtown, people don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. The infrastructure gets overloaded. You can't make a phone call. We can't even talk to dispatch some of the times. So, truly, my biggest concern is because of the people that come in and out of this community, the people that live here full time and understand the wildfire issues, understand what we're looking at, and have a better idea as to how to effectively evacuate is going to be hampered significantly by the visitors that just don't know. But what do you do with them, right? There's been some discussion, and the Office of Emergency Management is currently contracted with outside consultant to do a traffic study to take a look at evacuation zones in the event of an emergency, not just a wildfire. So it'll be interesting to see what they come back with, and there's been some discussion about putting up signs that say egress route, just randomly in the community as a way to maybe help mitigate some of this. But that's the reality of the environment we live in. And, clearly during this low season, for what that is anymore, it's not as much of an issue as it is going to be, let's say, summertime when, the town is full of people and full of events. You're going to have a lot of people that just don't know what they don't know until the time comes, and it's going to slow down everybody and everything.
Chief, I appreciate your candor. It's really important. When did you say that study was going to be done?
I'm sorry, you cut out there for a minute, or I didn't catch what you're talking about. The analysis. Yeah, it was something that we just, as the policy board, we just signed off on that about a month ago. And so I want to say, don't quote me on this, but I would venture a guess that we'll start hearing more about it end of summer, beginning of fall, as to what the outcome was and what the action items are moving forward. But
okay.
I assure you that it is something that we in the public safety realm are fully aware of, and has been identified on numerous fronts as a choke point, if you will, for our communities.
Yeah,
Well said. Thank you.
That study is being conducted by Summit County with participation of towns as well. And as council members, we may be asked to help contribute to fund that study. And that's being worked at the county level, and at the top level, I think we've had the first just mention of that at probably the mayor manager's monthly meeting.
Yeah, we got from the Office of Emergency Management probably 2 months ago, we got the rough outline on the scope of work. So it's out there, and it will be moving for sure.
Other questions? Councilmember Keel?
I'm sorry if I missed this, but I just wanted to confirm, do we have a timeline for that fleet maintenance facility in Keystone? I know it's based on funding, but do you have a rough timeline of when you think that would be, a project that's up and moving?
We had the pre-proposal meeting for design and engineering 2 weeks ago. The deadline for questions on the RFP is the 17th of July, and the closing for submittals is August 31st. Once we get that done, then we'll start in earnest with design and engineering on building or designing the conceptual. We are planning on putting in the budget an allocated amount, whatever we think is appropriate based off of where design and engineering goes, up against, compared to what we think we can get done next year, to get that started as soon as possible. So I'm thinking with the Station 10 project, it was a year from start to groundbreaking. I hope that maybe we can back that up a month or two. I'd like to get started in the spring, but I would be surprised if we weren't in the ground doing something this time next year. So it's, if anybody has any leads on any land in the county that is more centrally located, then I would certainly be interested in hearing about that, because it'd be nice to build a standalone facility for fleet maintenance, because it's, when you have them in an operational station, it's like putting the dentist right next to the plumber kind of thing. It's, you got very different disciplines working in the same building, and while one supports the other, for sure, it's just different needs. Fleets can be there working until 10 o'clock at night. If the crews are on the second day of their shift, they work a 48-96 schedule, so they're on for 2 days and off for 4. On a busy holiday weekend, they can run 20 calls a shift. So they might be tired. People get cranky and things. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Other questions? Town manager?
Yeah, I know it's really not your area, but what do you basically, if the OEM is reassessing Code Red, what do you feel about our Code Red system?
That is something that, that we have, I think, I don't know if anybody's aware of, you get just a quick snapshot history here. The 911 Center for a number of years has been struggling immensely. They were budgeted for 16 people, and at one point in time, within the last few years, they were down to the equivalent of 4.5 dispatchers. We went out and we hired an outside consultant. They came in and they went through the 911 Center top to bottom and made a number of recommendations. This was about 2 years ago, and since then, the 911 Center has completely turned around. One of the big things that was missing back then was quality assurance. And Code Red was one of those big things that, I mean, it was better than nothing. And I think when you look at what happened in the Marshall Fire as compared to the number of people that we have signed up in Code Red here in the county, and the times that we have activated and what we use it for, it's been fairly successful for us, but it is outdated technology. And we are looking through the 911 board, we are looking at that as one of the major improvements for the center, to get online with something that is more current. It's the trouble with any of those platforms is that we've got a backside infrastructure that lacks. We all see it. I'm assuming we all see it. When we have a busy weekend, you have a hard time getting out on your phone sometimes. It may just be that question. We see it consistently. So while there's great technology out there, we have to make sure that the technology that we have will actually is compatible with this current system that we have in place for cellular service. Up to and including, we're actually talking about getting some cell towers on wheels, basically, to be able to deploy around the county if we have a big incident, just so we can maintain communications. But directly to your point, it's better than what we had, we got it. It's not the best technology that's available today. I think we've had better success with it than most. I don't know if you remember after the Marshall Fire, they actually interviewed our emergency manager and talked about our Code Red system and the tests that we do and the percentage of the community that signed up on that. And we've done a good job. We've got folks in our community that truly care about what's going on and want to be kept up to date on. So more to come on that for sure.
Other questions? I have a couple. As the town is putting together our infrastructure for support. So should we be looking at fire mitigation ordinances for properties?
The fire chief in me wants to say that. Personal homeowner in me says, yeah, I'll tell you from my experience, this is what we come up with. I cringe every time I walk around the community and I see a tree that somebody built a deck around. That just, why are we doing this? Why do we allow this? At the same time, people move to the mountains for the peace, the quiet, the serenity, the privacy. So there's a part of me that says yes to a point, right? If I had to make a recommendation today, I would say please support the fire department in our efforts to mitigate, provide wildfire mitigation for homeowners, HOAs, whatever it may be. But I'm not out there to try and change the world and set a new pace for that, because I think that's where we cross over and potentially get into trouble with people that we serve, because they move to these kind of locations for a reason. And that's that double-edged sword for you.
Well, thank you. And the legislature this year just passed a law that will allow special districts to enact a sales tax. Do you see any movement on your board to try to put something like that on the ballot?
You know, as a special district, we're going to constantly be under attack for property taxes, just the way it is. Now, we're fortunate as a fire district, as a special district in the state, that we've always had very good community support. And we lived off of 9 mills for probably almost 14 years before we went and asked for any money. And when we did, it was because there was a legitimate need. We doubled in size overnight. I can't run on what I was running on if we doubled in size. Right now, I will tell you no, there hasn't been any discussion about it. The fire district we are in a good position to be able to do what we need to do with big capital expenses, whether that be updating our facilities, replacing ladder trucks. When I started in the business, a ladder truck was the most expensive thing. It was about $900,000. Now they're about $2.5 million. So everything has gotten more expensive. We have some things that we can do that we've already discussed that we want to look at further diversifying our revenue streams. And one of them is our permit fees are low for the region. So that's one thing that we can do, and that's something that would be passed on to the builder. Right? The other thing that we looked at one point in time and then tabled was impact fees. Now, 194 makes it a little bit easier for us, because prior to the town, we would have had to get Dillon, Silverthorne, Frisco, and the county to agree on what our impact fee was, how it was assessed, how it was collected, so on and so forth. Now, with the addition of the town of Keystone, that adds one other jurisdiction to that, but 194 allows us a little bit more flexibility in implementing something like that. You know, it's always the question of, it costs a lot to live up here. You know, there's no doubt about it. We pay to live up here. And I don't want to see, nor any of my predecessors, it wasn't our intent to take advantage of any opportunity to acquire funds that wasn't absolutely necessary. So I think that before we went so far as to approaching any one of our jurisdictions about implementing some sort of sales tax, we would look at what other options that we have. And when it came time to do that, I think it's safe to say that our board, even though they're fairly new, with our current legal counsel, is something that would be approached very cautiously, because you just don't, there's a finite amount of money, right? And we don't want to, you know, try and grab as much as we can, because we don't know what the future is going to be with the constant attack on property taxes down the state. But we've got some other options.
Well, thank you. Any other comments, questions? One last comment. I've had an opportunity to work with your fire mitigation team, and Hannah Olson, who happens to live here in Keystone, is absolutely superb. I've seen her work with HOAs, numerous HOAs here in the community. I've seen her work with individual homeowners. I had an opportunity to sit down with her and a homeowner last summer, as a matter of fact. I was invited to sit down, and the way she handles fire mitigation and trying to find reasonable solutions to problems that homeowners face, particularly in the building and permitting process, is laudable. Again, thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that feedback. Holly is, we had a vision for the Wildland Division, and she kind of sets the bar for what we hire.
Yeah.
She was the second one that we brought on as the risk management specialist, and she just does an outstanding job. She's going to be moving more into the mitigation side of things, so you may not see her too much, but she's still going to be out there. It's all the same to you. I'm going to bow out if we're done here. I appreciate the time. It's good to meet and see you all, and you know where I'm at if you need anything. Just reach out.
And thank you very much for speaking to us today.
Have a good day.
Our next item on our agenda is Chris Sorensen, with VM and the Vice President and GM of Keystone, to give us an update on the resort. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chris.
Green light. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Council, for having me today. It's obviously a pleasure to be here to share all the exciting things that are happening at Keystone this past season and as we look towards the summer ahead. Pre and post season updates are a great way for our local leaders across our company to connect with our local government partners to highlight the successes from the winter season and provide a look ahead to what to expect for the summer. I have enjoyed getting to know all of you in the room, and I look forward to those continued relationships as we work together for the upcoming season and beyond. As a leader of Keystone Resort, it's important that we have a positive partnership and a productive relationship with all of the fellow leaders here at the town of Keystone. I'm excited to work with you and other businesses and community leaders on a long-term vision for what we want this community to look like over the next year, 3 years, and 5 years, to ensure an inclusive, thriving, and resilient local community and economy here in Keystone. I'm committed to building a foundation of communication and collaboration with you as the new town takes shape. I am focused on ensuring open and transparent communication and hope you feel the same way. While we may sometimes disagree, my door is always open. I'm always happy to answer questions, listen to feedback, and discuss opportunities on how we can collaborate. With that, I'll kick into the winter recap. So I'd like to kick things off looking back at our 23-24 season. By all accounts, it was a historical season for us with so many things to highlight. We opened the resort thanks to our energy efficient snowmaking technology and the hard work of our team. We were able to open November 1st with over 2 miles of skiing and riding, and quickly opened terrain across all 3 peaks despite challenging early season conditions. In fact, on January 28th, Keystone was the very first resort in Summit County to be 100% open. Hopefully this year you had a chance to go out and check out Bergman Bowl. That was new. So in December, we debuted our new Bergman Express chairlift, offering high access to, or lift access to our high alpine terrain for the first time ever at Keystone. The new chairlift offers the high alpine experience to all levels of skiing. For those that may be unaware, the chairlift is named after Bill and Jane Bergman, 2 of Keystone's founders. The resort hosted a Bergman family celebration in December, and on the lift's opening day, we did have Bill Jr. and Lolly there to cut the ribbon and to take first chair with their grandkids. Closing day. It's a historic season for us. We closed April 7th, a week after Easter, and hosted our annual Springtastic closing weekend, which features the only kids pond skim in the county. Each season, each season, we base many of our decisions around the anticipated guest behavior, and the Easter holiday typically serves as an end of winter milestone for many of our guests as they switch from skiing to mountain biking. Keystone Resort season typically ends around the Easter holiday, and you can expect the same as we approach the coming season. Big focus for us this year was parking. And so a big priority was how can we improve our efficiencies in our parking lots and optimize our guest arrival experience. We use new technology and data analysis to observe how many guests were arriving to the resort so that we could adjust our operations accordingly. We learned and we leaned into proactive measures for our guests before they arrived through My Epic app, road signs, POS alerts, and pre-arrival emails. We also expanded our carpool parking in the River Run lot by 600 spaces to encourage our guests to carpool as much as possible to reduce traffic. The impacts of these efforts were clear. Guest carpooling increased this past season by 30%, lowering local traffic congestion and reducing the use of our North Shuttle lot, which is where we move to when we fill up our River Run lot. Looking ahead to the 24-25 season, pre-arrival experience remains a top priority for us. We plan to continue to analyze parking data on a day-to-day basis to more effectively direct traffic. We also plan to implement increased temporary highway signs to direct arrivals to power line lots sooner. On to summer. So looking ahead to summer, is a special time in the mountains. We're looking forward to officially welcoming our guests back next Thursday, June 20th. On-mountain activities will operate Thursday through Monday, 10 to 5 p.m. For our summer operations on mountain, we will offer scenic gondola rides, our Keystone Mountain Bike Park, hiking, one of the only natural snow tubing hills operating in the summer in the country, and mountaintop yoga. Summit House will be open for food and beverage options. I'm excited to share the launch of Keystone Resort's first youth summer day camp, Keystone Explorers. This program is designed to cater to our local community, guests visiting the resort, and our dedicated employees. And happy to share more information with council on that in an email. Summer festivals. In partnership with the Keystone Neighborhood Company, we're thrilled to offer another exciting lineup of festivals this summer that will bring tourists from across the region to Keystone. This includes Bacon and Bourbon, which is the first weekend we open, Stars and Guitars, Keystone Wine and Jazz, River Run Art Festival, Bluegrass and Beer, and then closing things out with Keystone Oktoberfest. Now I'm going to shift to some of the things that our company does to fill the council in. So Epic Promise is one of our community, or one of our company foundations that does a lot in communities and for our employees, and you know, partners with sustainability. And so, since this is my first update, I'm going to orientate you on some of the things that we do, and then I'll give you kind of an update on where it's at. So a little history, and then where it's at currently. So Epic Promise is comprised of 4 pillars: community support, sustainability, inclusive access, and then an employee foundation. So community support. Our Epic Promise program donates an average of $3.7 million in the communities, and inclusive access grants us in the Summit County community every year. So $3.7 million here in Summit County from our community support. Supporting families and parents through meaningful grants, supports for accessible childcare, food securities across the county is important to us. Earlier this summer, Keystone Resort partnered with the Dillon Valley Elementary School to host free optional enrichment experiences for students in kindergarten through 5th grade during school hours at the Keystone Ski and Ride School. A few of you reached out to me and thanks for that when they had the fire down at the Dillon Valley Elementary School. So one of the ways that we partner. We're thrilled to continue our longstanding partnership with the Summit Foundation and raise dollars through a Medallion Pass program that they have. Some of that money goes to Project Thrive and will contribute $750,000 to help working families with summer and after-school care. Looking ahead, we're excited to announce a new $250,000 grant commitment over 2 years to support the FERC food market. We will formally announce this, so keep it quiet. You're not being recorded, right? We're going to formally announce this support to the FERC at the FERC Night Out event that is next Thursday, June 20th. Hopefully some of you are going to be there. It's going to be a great evening. On July 16th from 1 to 4:30 at the Maggie, we'll be hosting a panel of experts from the Summit County Community Conservation on climate. The panel will discuss the reframing of climate movement, scalable mitigation tactics, sustainable operations incentives, and then some DEI and mental health. We're aiming to change the way we think about the climate movement and highlight the community challenges. After the panel, we'll host a happy hour reception. We invite you to join us in this meaningful community event. Again, that is on July 16th from 1 to Maggie and Breckenridge. Inclusive access. The future of the sport is inclusive, or inclusion. We're on a mission to foster more welcome ski and riding communities and inclusive ski and riding industry. We're confident that this will help us continue to grow the sport for years to come. Here at Keystone, we partner closely with the BOEC through our Keystone Adaptive Center to support snow sport enthusiasts who need adaptive access resources. Through our Epic for Everyone program, we also partner with organizations like SOS Outreach, Mountain Mentors, and the National Brotherhood for Snow Sports to increase equitable access for youth, adults, and BIPOC populations. A look back, in 22-23, $16.7 million invested in inclusive access programs across North American resorts. $2 million of that was invested here in Summit County. In partnership with the Cats Amsterdam Foundation and Charitable Trust, we have hosted almost 12,000 youth through multi-day programs at 37 of our resorts to make winter sports more inclusive and accessible. In the 22-23 season, Breckenridge and Keystone supported 628 youth through the Youth Access Program. Our adaptive programs has served over 10,000 people annually with disabilities and includes over 1,100 veterans living with a disability. We also have supported over 30 wishes from the Make-A-Wish organization across 8 of our resorts. 8 of those wishes were fulfilled here at Keystone this past winter. The National Brotherhood of Snow Sports and Youth Access we partnered with them and hosted 50 youth participants in 5 sessions to learn to ski and ride here at Keystone this past season, which included equipment rental, instructors, and a mentorship program through those 5 sessions. This was funded through the Cats Amsterdam Foundation and Charitable Trust, and also supports the MBS for soft goods, so jackets, transportation, buses up from their schools in Denver, and capacity in some of our buildings. This season, Keystone partnered with local nonprofit Mountain Pride to host our first annual Queer Ski Weekend. We provided an important opportunity to demonstrate to our guests Keystone Resort is a resort for families of all backgrounds, and that both the resort and the community of Keystone are a place where guests can come feel welcome and safe. The reception for this event was overwhelmingly positive, and we look forward to hosting it again next year. Looking ahead, on the topic of events, we're also excited to share some news. One of our biggest inclusive access partners, the National Brotherhood of Snow Sports, our mission is to increase participation, or their mission is to increase participation in snow sports while delivering and supporting athletes of color who will be represented at international competition. It's my privilege to share with this group that NBS has selected Keystone to host their 2025 annual summit. This event brings together more than 55 ski clubs from around the world with thousands of members and supporters. This is a week-long celebration, which includes tours, clinics, game nights, operate parties, concerts, and more, all right here in Keystone. The celebration is tentatively scheduled for February 22nd through March 1st. Sustainability, shift over to that. So some history. Our commitment to the environment remains one of the top priorities. Our network of mountains all work together towards a goal to achieve 0 net operating footprint by 2030. And I'm proud to say that we're well on track to achieve that. Looking back, for the 2nd year in a row, Vail Resorts has reached 100% renewable electricity across all North American resorts. Vail Resorts engages in and funds a variety of renewable energy projects across the country, including Plum Creek, which is an 82 turbine wind farm, and Excel Energy Colorado Renewable Connect, which provides renewable electricity right here at our resort. Another big milestone this season, we achieved our 2030 energy efficient goal of 15% through a $10 million investment in energy saving capital projects. One great example of this project here at Keystone is the patrol hut that we built up in Bergman. That patrol hut is completely off-grid. The exterior and interior were built using beetle kill pine wood, and then it's heated through a pellet stove and then powered by solar panels that are on the roof. It does have battery backups in the building, but that is completely off-grid and extremely sustainable for us. Last but certainly not least, our company has reduced our landfill waste by 6.1 million pounds since we set out our baseline in 2017. That's equivalent to 306 snowcats. That's a lot of weight, a whole lot of weight. We're on track to achieve our zero waste to landfill goal by 2030. So looking ahead, at Keystone Resort, we're excited about making significant investments this year in our waste system and dishwasher infrastructure at our food and beverage outlets to reduce single-use items and support the guest experience. We'll be working with Xcel Energy this summer to complete commercial energy audits on several of our hospitality facilities with the goal of making energy efficient improvements in alignment with our net zero emissions and community sustainability goals. And then we have the employee foundation side of it. And so the Epic Promise Employee Foundation was launched in 2016. The Epic Promise Employee Foundation supports team members and their dependents in the pursuit of their educational dreams and lends a hand in times of needs. Specifically, the Epic Promise Employee Foundation assistance for our employees and families through scholarships with employees and dependents and employee hardship grants. In 2023, our Epic Promise Employee Foundation provided $1.1 million in grants to our team members, including 180 academic scholarships and 242 hardship relief grants. I would like to thank all of you for giving me the opportunity to share some of the amazing things happening at the Keystone Resort this past season, and look forward to working with you as we figure out how we're going to best serve the community, our guests, and the mountains that we call home. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, Chris, thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Councilmember Corbett.
Thanks for coming and talking to us. I would certainly be interested to hear more about those adventure camp options for our constituents with children, because I certainly hear from my friends with the difficulty they have in finding opportunities for their children in the community in the summer. And, you know, there are some opportunities that are specific to certain towns around the community, and I know it would be super exciting for some of our constituents to know that there's that option right here in our community, and I'm excited that you guys are offering that. And then a comment and question. You mentioned it's that time of year when folks are transitioning to bikes and guests are coming up to ride bikes. And I just wanted to say, as a community member, I'm impressed with the recent efforts in the Keystone Bike Park to improve maintenance and new trails. I view the developments as exactly what's needed for, I mean, both the visitors that you're drawing here have a range of skill sets. And I like it too. I've been to Whistler Bike Park and seen the absolutely amazing business that they bring in solely for their bike park. And I would sure love to hear about any future plans that Keystone has to improve their bike park and maybe become the US version of that.
I love it, thank you. So on the Explorer program through childcare, it's going to run Monday through Friday. You'll have the option to do a single day, a full week, or even sign up for a month session. I don't know the prices off the top of my head for that. Each week will consist of a different kind of learning aspect for the camp. And so each week will change from learning about forest animals to learning about aquatics over at the Keystone Lake, and very targeted They will go to the top of the mountain during the camp 3 days a week, so I know Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, they will go up on the mountain to learn about stuff at the top of the mountain. But I'm happy to share all the information. I shared it with John and Ken yesterday, but I can make sure it gets out, or John can look it up and share it.
We're actually sending out all that information. We've got notes on this one.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, we felt there was a need, and we're excited to be able to offer that. Thanks for the compliments on the bike park. The team over the last 2 years has really focused on improving our trails from a more technical trail to a flow trail. That work will continue. We will still have some technical trails at Keystone, but really focusing on how we create a smoother, easier to ride trail for the guests that want to come here so that we can introduce more people to the sport. We also have approval from the Forest Service to be able to build 5 more trails at Keystone. Those will continue to stay a priority for summer. And so, yeah, I would say, potentially in the next few years, you'll see some more growth here at Keystone with some introductions to some new trails.
And I think from a town perspective, we would like to see, as the bike park grows, potentially in the future, the opportunity to keep it open 7 days a week instead of 5. And again, that if you look at River Run and the impact on River Run the days you're closed, River Run's closed, basically. And so it's, I think from a vitality standpoint, from a business standpoint, this community, partnering with you in that area is something on a whole we may be interested in pursuing in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to continue the conversation and see how we can partner on, looking at potentially a 7-day-a-week operation. One thing this year, we will, after Labor Day, we will go to weekends only through the 22nd of September on the gondola for Bike Park and for scenic rides to the top. Our activities in the base area will cease to exist. I hope if Tubing's still open and we have snow, that will continue, but I don't know how long it is after that. So.
Any other comments or questions? Well, Chris, thank you very much for coming in today. We look forward to the July 19th tour of the overall of your overall operations, as it will come up at the end of, or I guess mid-month next month. I don't think we've introduced that date yet to the council. We were going to do that later today, but we look forward to that. We look forward to that and working with you in the future. And again, I want to echo your comments of openness, collaboration, recognize we're going to have differences, but that's okay. Differences at times are healthy, and the important thing is to continue to work together as we shape the where the community would like to go, and hopefully bring it congruence where the resort would like to go. And I go beyond just 5 years. I'm looking at 5, 10, and 15 years. Where do we want to be in the future? So again, thank you for coming today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Mayor Riley and Council. And I look forward to July, and we're hoping to get those invites out next week. So give you a tour. So thank you.
Again, thank you very much. Next item on our agenda, again, if you're seeing from the agenda this week, it's more of an educational agenda for us, is the discussion of the taxpayer bill of rights. I've had a request to have a 5-minute recess. If there is no objection from the members, we'll take a 5-minute recess and reconvene at 5 p.m.
I'm right there.
Yeah. We're back, are we? All right, I will call the meeting back to order. And we'll lead off with the discussion of Tabor, and I'll turn it over to the town manager.
And I will immediately turn it over to Jennifer Manson, our town attorney.
Good afternoon, Council. Jennifer Madsen, the town attorney. So in your packet was an overview of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, Tabor, as it's frequently referred to. The Colorado voters approved this amendment to the Colorado Constitution in 1982. So Tabor has been around for more than 30 years. When the voters approved it in 1992, it was touted as really a way to force local governments to get voter approval for any new taxes, any tax changes. In reality, many local governments already had provisions requiring voter approval for new taxes, so it didn't change all that much related to implementation of taxes. Tabor has other requirements. It is seen as a revenue limitation. It has requirements related to how voter approval is requested. That's one of the things that, as your attorney, I really need to focus on is if you want to ask any tax questions, there are very specific ways that needs to be done according to Tabor. And that's what a lot of litigation has been around, is the ways in which local governments have asked for implemented tax increases in the way that they asked those, and did those comply with Tabor. One of the things that is addressed in the memo is another section of Tabor, and that's on the revenue limitation. And that memo has a little diagram, and that diagram explains what that revenue limitation is. Essentially, what Tabor does is it looks at revenue in one year compared to the revenue that was received in the previous year. And if that revenue is greater than the growth factor, which is inflation and increase in real property tax valuation, then that revenue needs to be returned to your electorate. And so that is a question that many local governments ask. They submit a question that's frequently referred to as a debrucing measure. And what that does is allows the local government to retain any excess revenue. That's also important for receiving grants money. Often when you put in an application for grants or receive grant money, one of the questions is your municipality, are they debruced? So that you can retain that grant money and don't have to refund it back to your constituents. So that is a very high-level overview. Does anybody have any questions for me on that?
Councilmember Sullivan.
Thank you. I was just, the math, you say the CPI, so let's say it's 3%, and real estate goes up 15%. So they can have revenue of 18%?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure that was what I understand.
In the case where you haven't helped us, if there's a decline in real estate values which occurred in 2008, does that then lower the?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I think it really my understanding is that the focus is on the increase of revenue, and so there might be a ratchet down effect. Most of the municipalities I work with, in fact, all of them, have de-bruised. So this isn't really it's not a concern in terms of refunding that revenue.
Other questions? Councilmember Davis.
Does a debrucing take place at each time that there is a vote to increase taxes, or is it an overall thing?
It can be done a number of different ways, and that's really your decision if you decide to put a question to the voters to debruce. But one of the ways that a lot of municipalities have done is debrucing for all revenue into the future, not a specific limited number of years. There have been local governments who limited it to, say, a 5-year time frame, and then they have to ask another question if they want to. So it's up to you. Often then, also in tax questions, there is a component of it that is a debrucing piece that the government is allowed to keep any excess revenues for that specific tax. But that doesn't necessarily apply to other revenue streams.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Sorry. Is there any mitigating factors for a startup like us?
Well, so you really, you won't have anything to worry about this year. And because you don't have revenue to compare to from 2023. And then you won't have to worry about it next year either, because you're looking at what your revenue would be for next year. But then you need to factor in the whole entire year. So essentially, what we'll be doing is next year looking at revenue received in 2025 compared to 2024. And that would need to be refunded in 2026, essentially. And Tabor says you can then ask voters in 2026 what they want to do with that refund amount. So that would be the first year that you could consider it. You would have to consider it, essentially. Or you could put that question to voters before. It could be done in 2024 or 2025.
How do we determine our base revenue? We don't have a full year of operation in 24, so I would assume that in 25 you can't use 24's total revenue number because we didn't have a full year.
I haven't looked at them, but that might not be, I'm not sure that that's something that, that's an argument that maybe we would have to make as to whether you would need to refund in 2026 if there was that excess revenue that there wasn't a full year in 2024.
Because you'll have a full year of expenses in 25.
Right.
That's the point. That's my
Yeah,
question.
and that's the question I think the council is going to be very interested in as we're going forward as well. And recognize that tax questions can only be put on the ballot on our towns, in years of our town's elections, and then the November elections.
Right, so you can do it in April of 2026, and you can do it in November of 24, November of 25, November of 26.
Well, just to confirm, so we will have a problem then in 5, because 24 budget will be a lot less than 25. It's not a full year, plus we're ramping.
I haven't looked at that. I don't know that that is, I don't know. But then it would only come into play then in 26. That's when you would be required to issue any refunds.
But I think we would want to know the answer to that question in 24 as
Okay.
we're going forward.
Yeah, I can look at
I
that.
mean, this is a very unique situation. I recognize, as with most things with the corporation, of the statutes in this state's constitutional amendment doesn't really take into consideration new towns without operating them full years. So.
And it might be just a legal argument and not a definitive answer. So, I mean, that's likely what it would be.
Councilmember Keel.
One other question about debrucing. Are there any municipalities that you work with that have a cap on the percentage that the municipality is allowed to keep before it needs to go back to voters? It seems like it's sort of like an all or nothing. And given how our property taxes and, you know, our property values change so quick here, I'm wondering if there's anybody who puts a cap on, oh, if we're 15% over, we're 10% over, that needs to go back to voters.
No.
It's an all or nothing.
Yes, yeah. But you can, I mean, it's not, this isn't something for Keystone to consider, but other municipalities who have a property tax, you can adjust your mill levies for that property tax. And that's what they do.
I'm only an observer, but isn't the bottom line debruce and do it fast? Isn't that the implication of what you said?
Yes. And that's the question that the council is going to have to deal with, potentially even as early as November in the upcoming election.
Well, and just for timeline, to get you thinking about it, so it is something that could be on the ballot in 2024. You would probably do it as with the coordinated election with the county. And in order to do that, you would likely need to start working with the county as early as August 1st, because the county typically has an intergovernmental agreement that they want signed for their election, and they want the questions probably by the first part of September so that they can start working on their process.
And I believe there's a plan to have a discussion of taxes, taxation, all of that in coming work sessions for discussion by the council of how do we want to proceed in November or November of this year, November of, I guess, next year, or spring of 2026. Any other questions? Well, thank you. Next item on the agenda is a discussion of is really more quasi-judicial training. We've had one quasi-judicial session on the liquor licensing arena, and we thought it would be beneficial for us, again, to get a refresher of quasi-judicial and what our responsibilities are. And Mr. Town Manager?
And once again, I'll pass it on to Ms. Maxey.
Good afternoon. I'm waiting for the PowerPoint to show up here so that you guys can see it, and the people on our virtual audience can also see it. Okay. So some of this may look a little bit familiar to you, but as members of town council, you all wear many hats. You perform legislative actions, quasi-judicial actions, and administrative executive actions. For your legislative actions, you're making laws that apply to all of town all individuals or all properties. You're not singling out any one person. For administrative actions, you are essentially getting work done. Those laws are being implemented or policies are being implemented for your administrative actions. And deep breath here, the quasi-judicial actions are what we are going to talk about tonight. Quasi-judicial actions are court-like actions, and so I think whenever you're considering how to act, how to function in this role, wearing this hat, think about your role as a judge. How would a judge handle this situation? So in quasi-judicial actions, like any court actions, they affect the right of an individual. You're determining rights specific to a person or an entity or property. They require specific conduct and specific actions, and that is notice, a right to present evidence at a hearing, cross-examination at that hearing, and then also a fair process, a fair judicial process. So that means no ex parte communication, and that's something that we'll talk about a little bit later, and impartial voting. So as judges, you need to be fair and unbiased in your decision making and in the process. Before a quasi-judicial application gets to you, you will receive notice that that action is pending. So that's the point in time essentially where you stop communication, don't talk to anybody. That's where you know that you're going to be a judge in an upcoming matter. And at that point, you try to keep an open mind, don't form any opinions, and try not to discuss anything with the other members of council. Just briefly, what are some of the quasi-judicial actions that you will hear? As Mayor Riley said, those are your liquor licensing decisions. They are going to be land use applications and potentially appeals on short-term rental license. That would be quasi-judicial. So I will talk about then the conduct of a hearing for a quasi-judicial matter. One important note that before the start of the hearing, there are certain things that should happen that aren't listed here on this slide. But that would be where any of you would disclose a conflict of interest. So if you have a financial interest, you have a financial interest in the applicant or the property that's before you, that would be a conflict and where you need to recuse yourself. If you are biased or have a fixed opinion already, you would want to bring that up. And then also it might be reasonable to bring up matters that aren't necessarily conflicts of interest, but where you feel like it should be disclosed to demonstrate that you're showing to people, hey, this is something that maybe it's your brother that's the applicant, and you feel like you still can decide the matter, but it would be important to note. So those would be something that you would identify in advance of the hearing. And again, we've talked about this before, but if you have a conflict, you would excuse yourself, you wouldn't vote, wouldn't be able to discuss the case, and really you should leave the room. Okay, so for the conduct of the hearing is opened, and the chair of the meeting, which would typically be the mayor, is given a script, and you open the meeting, provide information to everybody in attendance about what the process is for that hearing, what are the steps, how's it going to unfold. The staff then presents the application, and then at that time, the council will be able to ask staff any questions on the application. Then the next part of the process is the applicant has an opportunity to present information. And then council can ask the applicant any questions about the applicant's presentation. Then the next step in the process is public comments. You'd want to have specific rules in place about public comments. For example, the rules that are in place for town council is that people have 3 minutes to speak. Require that the speaker identify themselves. Often it's helpful if you separate speakers into pros and cons. So ask people who are pro an issue to speak first, and then the people who are against it to speak next. And then there might be people who just want to provide comments, who don't take a position pro or con, and they would maybe speak third. It would be helpful at that time before public comment to explain to the public that it's really not an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant. They can raise issues, but it's not an inquisition of the applicant. That the people are only given one opportunity to speak at public comment, and that people in the audience are not allowed to speak. So next step on the hearing, you close the public comment or the public hearing piece of it. No more evidence then at this time is considered. Staff will have given you the criteria to make your decision. And the applicant really has the burden with the evidence that the applicant is presenting to show that the criteria has been met. So once you have closed the public comment, then that's when your deliberation occurs. And at this point in time, you have no more evidence. And really what the deliberation is considering what the facts are based on that evidence and has the criteria been met. And in your deliberation, that's where you're really targeting that specific evidence to the criteria of that application. Okay, so the next piece of this is what we're all really focused on here. That's what I'm focused on, is that the decision can be challenged and reviewed by a judge in a district court. And so what that means is that we're really focusing on what the evidence is in the hearing, and that's what this box is everything that comes in the hearing is what would be considered if there were a challenge to your decision on a quasi-judicial matter. The decision could be challenged and reviewed by a judge in district court. It's called a Rule 106 action, and that was established by the Colorado Supreme Court for appealing quasi-judicial decisions. And in a 106 action, the judge really relies on the evidence that was provided in the hearing. And the judge then will uphold your decision if you do not abuse discretion or exceed your jurisdiction in considering the evidence and the criteria. So that's that's the reason why all of this is important related to what's presented in the hearing and application of the evidence to that criteria. So this is really just going back over the conduct of the hearing. What is the evidence? That's going to be your staff report and staff presentation, your applicant materials, everything that the applicant has submitted, and public comments. Then related to questions to ask, what you want to be doing during the public hearing portion of it, where you're accepting evidence and you're asking information, is you want to learn more and you want to clear up any confusion. Again, it's going to be related to your application criteria. So information that's not related to the criteria is really not something that you should be asking about. I've seen this come up with land use applications where a property owner is asking for a conditional use permit to be able to conduct a particular type of business in a commercial area. And the elected officials ask, well, how much are you going to be charging for those products that you're selling? Well, that's not really relevant to criteria for whether that business should be operating, and not really a question that should be asked, because if it's not relevant, you don't want to imply then that your decision is based on that evidence. And then related to maybe public comment, and typically it's not a good idea to ask public questions, but if there are people who have submitted materials to the council in advance, say neighboring property owners, what you'd want to do is ask staff and the applicant how those people might be impacted and affected by the application. So as we talked about, it must be based on the evidence as applied to the criteria. So this means only people who had full access to the evidence can vote. You may have hearings that last over a couple of meetings. If somebody is absent for one of those meetings, unless they go back and listen to the recording or listen to the evidence, then they can't participate in a decision. Also, there may be situations where the evidence supports that town council is wanting to impose conditions on an application. Typically, those are related to land use matters. And in those cases, your conditions that you would impose also need to be related to the evidence that you've heard and the criteria. So an example of this would be maybe on a conditional use permit related to hours of operation. If you have neighboring property owners complaining that, traffic issues or lighting or other impacts to the neighbors would affect them in nighttime hours, then the business would be limited to, say, daytime hours. Or lighting conditions that got downcast lighting, and so the lighting of a business isn't going to affect the neighboring residential property owners. And in those situations too, it's a good idea to ask the applicants if they will agree to your conditions. When you're asking the applicants and you get agreement, then there is, the applicant can't argue, well, that was a condition that was unreasonable or not properly imposed. So as I mentioned, ex parte communication rule applies to these quasi-judicial matters. And really that ex parte rule is in place because we're really focusing on the evidence that's heard and provided at the time of the hearing. Ex parte contact means any outside the hearing discussion with an interested party concerning the matter and the subject of the hearing. So just focusing on communications relating to the subject matter that's going to be before you. The contact is impermissible, whether it is the applicant, citizens, or really getting information from staff in advance of the hearing as well. Site visits can also be considered a potential concern related to ex parte contact, because what you're doing at a site visit is you're making observations and you're taking a look at, say, a property that's subject to a land use application. And if that information, your observations aren't part of the hearing, and you're basing your decision on that site visit, then that information isn't part of your box for the Rule 106. So related to site visits, the recommendation is you can go to the site, but what you want to do when you do that is whatever information is important to you at the site visit that you discover, you want to ask questions about that. Gather information, gather the evidence that's important to your decision, and bring that into the hearing. And you can say, I was at the site, and tell me about this condition that exists. Or, do you have a fence? Whatever it may be that's important to you, that you think is relevant to that application, solicit that information so that it's part of your evidence, that it's part of your box, essentially, for that 106 review. Like I mentioned, you will be getting communications when an application has been filed. That's the rule. The point in time where there's ex parte communications are not permitted. So once you get that email, that notification, just have something in your back pocket, a little script, something that you can say so that if you run into somebody in the grocery store, in River Run, you can say, I'm interested in hearing your views, but the town attorney doesn't allow me to talk about this at this time. Here's the date of the hearing, please show up at the hearing, or send an email to all of council, and we'll make sure that you can get that in our public record file. And really, that's for making sure that all the evidence comes in at the time of the hearing, that there is an interest in fairness, so everybody is hearing the same information. The applicant's hearing the same information, the public is hearing the same information, and it provides an appearance of impartiality. So what happens if you do get information, or you do have an ex parte communication? That will happen. It's bound to happen at some point in time. You guys live in a small community. So they're not necessarily meant to be fatal to your decision-making. Just because you have an ex parte communications, just because you've received information, doesn't mean you need to recuse yourself. What I recommend is, at that point in time, contact your community development director, contact me, and we'll talk through the issue, and then likely you'll be given a script, something that you can say at the start of the meeting that says that I had this contact, I engaged in this conversation, I didn't realize, didn't think about it being ex parte, but this is the information that was shared with me by this person about the application. Again, that way you're getting it out in the open in the hearing. Everybody is able to hear it and can potentially rebut it if they need to, but the information is out there. And that's it for my quasi-judicial. Does anybody have any questions?
Councilmember Sullivan.
Just a simple one, more logistics. I'm worried about ex parte. Will we be getting notices, is it with our normal package? Is it only like a 2 or 3 day notice before one of these?
My suggestion to staff would be that they send you an email once the application is received, so that you know that is pending, and you know that you shouldn't be talking to people about it.
That's what I was worried about.
Mr. Town Manager.
Yeah, and if I may jump in on this a little bit more. Some of the things you'll know, or you'll eventually learn to identify, oh, that might be a quasi-judicial project coming down the line. And I want to kind of expand on what our attorney said a little bit because of, well, the situation that's happening in Dillon. Before the application was in, one of the council members was very much on Facebook expressing opinions about something that they should have known would eventually come in front of them as quasi-judicial. That council member is now not allowed to vote on the issue because they've given the impression that they prejudged it and can't be an impartial person. So we will do our best to let you know when things are coming down the pathway, but you'll also have to think, okay, this is a large development project, for instance. It's probably going to come in front of us as quasi-judicial, even though anyone has heard about it is the newspaper story or something.
And that is related to prejudgment. Oftentimes, maybe during even campaigning, people talk about a particular issue, particular project, and express a view on that. And then that person wants to sit as a judge on that project when they've been out there and said, I would never vote for this if this came to pass. I mean, as the developer, you're going to do everything possible to get that person off of your decision. So, yeah, that's a great recommendation, is just really to not speak out about issues like that.
Other questions? Yeah, one of the reasons that we asked the attorney to provide this refresher to us was in fact the Dillon issue. Just to remind us that this is something that we all have to be very, very careful about for issues that potentially may come before us. And because none of us want to be in a position of saying, oops, I've already stated that I've prejudged this and won't approve it. And now your vote is now taken off the table. We have to keep an open mind as we look at these issues. So, one last chance for questions? So with that, the next item is any manager council issues. Town manager?
Well, first of all, I apologize. I very much misjudged how long our first two speakers would take. Don't worry, your meetings are going to become jam-packed again as we go forward in the future. I was just looking at my workshop list for next meeting, and you're going to be busy. And, Mayor, I guess how much do you want me to go into now, or should we wait for the regular meeting?
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about CML?
Okay, yeah.
Colorado Municipal League, that isn't really a big public interest item. But the Colorado Municipal League, there'll be 4 council members attending the Municipal League meeting next week. And that will be a noticed meeting for the entire week to meet Colorado open meetings laws. And I would recommend for those of us attending, I think all of us are planning to attend the CIRSA luncheon on the first day of the sign-in day for the meeting on Tuesday. And after that luncheon, I'd recommend that we get together, just briefly talk about where we're staying and where we're headed, and perhaps get an opportunity to consider having dinner together that evening, and if there are other opportunities for dinner during the rest of the week. No dinners are scheduled as part of the conference to give us an opportunity to work together. I've been asked to be a member of the nominating committee for CML for this cycle. I got a surprise after I said yes, I got a surprise when I got an email that said, and Mayor Riley is going to be the chair of the nominating committee. But that's just a matter for all of you to know as we go into the annual meeting for CML. I think it is on Wednesday afternoon. But it's an afternoon session for that. And so that's where we're kind of headed on the CML side. I think the town manager will have some guidance later when we go into reimbursement policy to talk a little bit about the CML conference and reimbursement for it as it applies to reimbursement policy. Anything else?
Yeah, just kind of, I guess, a primer, since this is new for you as a board. CML, incredible resources, as you're discovering, and this conference has a lot of great sessions. And I've seen boards try to approach it one of 2 different ways. They've tried to sit down and you go to this session, 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 and we'll cover the things we believe we need to cover. I found that it's better kind of to approach, certainly go over the schedule, identify the sessions you think you want to go to. But this is more than just educational. Certainly go to our attorney session. But this is more than just educational. This is also an incredible networking tool where you can meet up with other council members who've been doing this for a long time and are wonderful resources for you as you go forward. And don't feel you need to be locked into a session because you decided beforehand that's the one you want to go to. You might find something in the session you were just at triggered something and you want to expand on it at something offered in the next session. The best way to approach this, I've always found, is go to what interests you, see what interests you. If you walk into a session, you see one of your other council members sitting in there, it's not necessarily a bad thing. We all hear things differently in different ways, and that session might be very valuable to all the council members who are there and to the town. So be flexible as you're approaching your session choices is what I think. And we should, as a group, try to get together at least once a day and talk about what we learned, what highlights we see, what is just the absolute right thing for Keystone to go forward in the future so that we don't forget about it at the next day's sessions before we brought it up with each other. Any questions from the people who are going?
Who's going?
You, myself, Gretchen, and Carol. And we've all signed up for the social luncheon, so as we start out at 12:30 on Tuesday.
Get to know people, and, are you going? Oh, yeah, I'm going. And go to the exhibitors.
Yeah.
Booth. That's where all the experts are.
I mean, when the Small District Association was here this last year, those of us on the Corporation Committee side met with Bill at the Department of Local Affairs there, but we also took the opportunity to walk through the exhibitor session. You learn so much in there in talking to the exhibitors. And they don't have special set-aside times for that, so we probably have to sacrifice a session for that, but it's certainly worthwhile.
I was looking at the schedule today, I found 30 minutes that were open, so.
There's going to be a lot to do.
Mayor, I was wondering if now would be a good time.
Good time.
So as the town manager said, I am going to be speaking at CML. There are sessions that are specifically identified as continuing legal education. So those are sessions that lawyers can go to receive this continuing legal education, to get numbers that they need to get for their renewal of licenses. So on your program, you will see those identified as CLE. That doesn't mean you can't attend. A lot of the CLE sessions may be of interest to you and maybe topics that you would like to know a little bit more about. So I am speaking on Thursday afternoon. It's the last session. I think I probably have the worst time slot. Because it's Thursday, the last full day, and just at the end of the day. So, which is fine. But I was asked to speak last year after the Keystone Charter was approved. And CML is really making a concerted effort to promote home rule authority by municipalities. There's another session earlier in the morning about home rule litigation. And so my session is on home rule charters. And I will be talking about the Keystone Charter and how I worked with some of you. And you all did a great job.
Thursday at 5 p.m.
Yeah, Thursday at 5. And so you're welcome to come. You don't have to come. I am putting my materials together, and I would like to put the charter in with those materials, if that's okay with all of you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can we hold up signs or?
Yeah. Well, if you go, if you tell me you're gonna go, I will see if I can get a spot for you in the front. And I can call on you to provide commentary of our process and how it went. And I am gonna be talking about some of the key decisions that you made. how the Charter Commission wanted to really have a concerted effort to involve the community as a whole, rather than just registered electors, and how you work that into your charter. And at the same time, how the goal was to approve the charter on the first go around. And so that meant that you kept the vote to the registered electors, second homeowners, didn't have a vote in the charter. So I will be talking about those things.
Any questions? One other point of the CML conference, I think it is on the Thursday morning session. CML will be presenting Keystone a Colorado flag, if we have it.
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. And that was
That's Thursday morning?
Thursday morning. I think it's about 9:30.
I'll give you the details.
Yeah.
They're gonna send it to me.
Yeah, we're going to have details on it. And Councilmember Sullivan had made that recommendation, and then I took it to the executive director of CML, and they came back and said yes. So that will be occurring on Thursday morning. So since we have a few more minutes before, although I think food's there, one other item coming up in the future is the Keystone Owners Association annual meeting. The town manager and I have been invited to present and speak at that meeting, give an update on the town. Any other council member would like to attend, please let me know, and you're welcome to attend, and welcome to answer questions from the audience as well. We'll all participate in explaining to a lot of full-time residents, but also second homeowner residents in the HOAs about where we're headed, what we've done and where we're headed.
When's that date?
That's on the 3rd I believe it starts at, yeah, our sessions, I think we're right after Vail Resorts, so I would imagine it's going to be sometime after, certainly after 10, but probably by 10:30.
And it's July 3rd.
July 3rd.
Mayor, I'll be attending, I'm presenting the past president, or the award to the president.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Town Manager?
Not till later.
All right. Oh, and one last point. Looking at 6 minutes to go. The Summit Foundation Board, a board member of the nominating committee has approached me asking if they are open to putting someone from the community of Keystone on the Summit Foundation Board. So if any of you have any suggestions for that, please let me know, and we can pass those names on to the Summit Foundation Board for their consideration. Number one nonprofit, I think, in Summit County. So,
If I may, then
Yeah.
piggyback on this, just to get a quick feel here. I think it would benefit the town if we got a couple of the Summit Foundation medallions for use of our planning commission, our board members, and our staff, and it supports the Summit Foundation. Is there anyone have an issue?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's transferable medallions that allow you to, it's the Summit Foundation's biggest fundraising project is the sale of these medallions, which allow you to access any of the ski areas. There are discounts at local businesses. Golf passes are involved in that. It's a good way to support the Summit Foundation while getting a little something else, something out of it for ourselves.
as I understand it, those medallions are good anytime. There's no limit on the number of uses of those medallions. It's just you could only use one medallion a day.
And I believe they're, I think, $2,500 a medallion.
But that'll be something for us to consider as we go through, but I think probably with the budget cycle is coming in fall. All right, any other issues anyone has? With that, the hearing no more items to discuss, the meeting, the work session is adjourned, and we will then re-adjourn to the council session at 7 p.m.